Thanks for joining us today. I'm here with Ian Symmonds, a change agent in the field of education. Thanks for being here with us.
You bet.
And one of the first things I wanted to do with Ian is talk a little about your background and how it led you up to the education kind of innovation sector.
Sure. So I think like a lot of people, I was a junior in college at a large state university growing up in a small town in the Midwest, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with a history major. One night, we had a class that we took at my institution that was called Careers for History Majors. I'm not sure it was Careers for Dummies, but it was basically, what do you do if you want to be a history major but you don't want to teach, which is really the draw. And on the docket every week was a series of guest speakers who had history degrees and what they were doing in their field. And one night, our vice president for enrollment management of our university came, and he spoke so eloquently of, I remember it very vividly, he spoke so eloquently of his job, what he did, and it was a combination of academics and intellectual work and collaboration and advisement. And so I made an appointment with him and asked him, what do I need to do if I want to do what you do? And he said, well, you need to get an advanced degree, and you need to get some training in this. And so I did all those things, and it launched me into about a 15 or 16-year career in higher education and secondary preparatory education with independent schools. I worked with 4 different institutions that were really, really fun. And by the time I hit my mid-30s, late 30s, I really decided what I really enjoyed was kind of helping schools take it to the next level, whatever that next level was strategically. And so I started a company. I left what many would say was a very safe, very secure situation in a higher education setting here in Portland, and launched a consulting firm. And what we do, we're now a small consulting firm with, I think, a big impact. We have Ian Symmonds and Associates is six members, and we're based here in Portland, but we really have national appeal. We have clients in about 42 states and about 130 clients. And most of our clients are preparatory schools, independent schools. About 60% of them are, 40%, or the other 40% are higher education institutions, colleges and universities. We tend to work only with independent or private institutions, the occasional public, and we do some pro bono work in the nonprofit sector for in the area of child abuse. So we're very active in these areas, but it was an opportunity to help schools, which is what I had done in 4 different institutions.
I could definitely relate to that kind of career arc, and I think one thing that a lot of folks are interested in is what is the aha moment when you realize, okay, now is the time to go off on my own and be a change agent and either pursue a different career or start your own enterprise.
So it turned out for me, I got into the business really young, and probably like you, Justin, I got in very young. I found myself in my late 30s, having been in an industry for 15 years. And I actually started to feel pretty tired of doing what I was doing. And if you've never worked in an education sector as an administrator, there are days where you feel like all you're doing is managing people and process, and it's management. It's not inspiration, it's not creation, it's not collaboration, it's management of process and people. I was okay at it. I mean, it was something that I think I did okay, but I wasn't inspired by it. And what I really was inspired by was seeing an institution be able to draw upon its strengths and be able to kind of seize an opportunity, take it to the next level. And I liked doing research. I found that I had very little reflective time in managing all this people and process to do what I really enjoyed doing. So the aha moment came for me in my late 30s to say, what if I took all the best of the skills that I have and started a small business? Now, to me, a small business at that time was a cell phone and a notebook computer with an Ethernet connection and maybe a credit card to buy airplane tickets with. I didn't really know what that meant. And today, managing a small company with a relatively big impact in our industry, I've learned what it means. That I still do have to do some managing work, but I sure as heck get a lot of inspiration out of what we do, and that's the fun part.
I think it really comes through on the website. One of the things I noticed on the Ian Symmonds and Associates website, you have kind of the pivot white paper,
Pivot point,
in your latest blog post. Tell me a little bit more about what you're seeing in terms of the future of innovation and education.
Well, this is a subject I'm passionate about, and I think it fits quite nicely into why FMYI is a good scenario for us. So, if you look at what's happened in the last 5 years, from a recalibration of the economy to a global mindset, there's not a business in America, and certainly many business in North America, that really hasn't kind of had to look renewed, or with a renewed sense of what are they really trying to accomplish, and even look at their services they provide. Well, education is no different. It was 20 years ago, maybe 22 years ago, that we moved from distance learning to real online learning in higher ed. And most people said that wasn't going to work out. Most people said that will never replace face-to-face. It's not going to have the credibility. It's not going to be able to be a viable tool. Well, it turns out it really is a viable tool. It's not the only tool, but it's one of many in a kind of a hybrid model. The bigger thing impacting education is it's a recalibrated skill set. Young people today coming out of high school and college, they certainly need to know how to read, and they need to know how to write. And what we know small private colleges do well, the critical thinking skills and the connecting the dots between disciplines, those things that don't go out of style, they're still important. But I would say there's a bit of a renaissance happening, a higher level of 21st century skills that schools are just awakening to at this moment in time. It's no longer enough to know a foreign language. You need to be competent in another culture. If you're going to work with people from another culture, language is not going to be alone enough to be able to work with them on a project. Collaboration skills. Gone are the days where one person comes up with a great idea and invents it. We have to work together to come up with more solutions. I think critical thinking has been transformed into creative problem solving. We are going to be in no absence of complex problems to solve in the future. Sustainability just being one of them. It's kind of that old game, if you've seen infants play, whack-a-mole, where you try to whack things that pop up, and the moment you seem to solve one thing, they're so interconnected, something else pops up. We need complex problem solvers for the future that have creative minds. These are skills that American institutions have not historically been strong at, and so where we're seeing the pivot point in education is the sage on the stage in the classroom, the four walls of a classroom are probably no longer going to be enough. It's going to be a redefined classroom where they have partnerships in other countries, they're using technology and leveraging it to understand another culture, they're working partnership side by side with people that time and space is less important, and they're using innovative tools to be able to bring about a more practical, more hands-on, more global learning experience. I'll give you a case in point. About 6 months ago, my daughter, who's an 8th grader at a school locally here in Portland, that runs a one-to-one laptop program. Every student in 6th grade moves to a MacBook, and they use all the bells and whistles on it. And she actually had to be out of school on a family trip during a day that they had a project that was due. Her team, 4 people that were working on this project, had to present in front of the class. Michaela got permission during this project to present from our hotel room in another state using iChat or Skype. What's amazing is I was telling this story to someone else later about the fact that she was there virtually with her friends presenting this project and doing her part. And I said, it's like she was there. And he said, actually, Ian, in her mind, she was. With this digital immigrant kind of orientation that we have versus the digital native that she is, time and space wasn't really important. She was online with her friends collaborating, no different than she does in the classroom. So pretty powerful stuff. And so there's an enormous pivot point happening in education today, and many educators are just awakening to it. Many are on it and moving forward and changing curriculum as a result. It's a really exciting time. I would call it almost a renaissance in education today in North America.
Absolutely. And one of the things that is pretty hot, in our field in terms of all the talk about social media and technology, the sense of these concepts of open source and crowdsourcing, and essentially it's breaking down barriers between people. It's collaboration. But in the field of education, if you were to look at it kind of critically, how do you feel about opportunities that are kind of being missed right now in terms of incorporating that technology, or what are the best applications maybe right now for it?
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting. First of all, let's look at the very bare bones. most institutions of learning today, the students that attend them have better technology at home than they do at the school that they go to, whether it's a secondary school, a primary school, or a college or university. Now, with the advent of netbooks and iPads and less expensive, more open source, and more cloud computing going on, I think these mobile devices are going to drive cloud computing, which is going to drive collaboration even more. So I think we're seeing change happen in increments of 6 months rather than 5 years, as it used to be the case in an industry like education. So rapidly changing. What I see happening is I see more open source use. I see more using technology in a cloud. I see more paperless work, more the idea that 4 students will collaborate on a paper, i.e. A paper that never gets printed, and it may be shared in some sort of an open source site where the faculty member then grades the paper, provides feedback in a way, and then they present together. One of the real misunderstandings, I think, of social media, and maybe it's an industry that's poorly branded, is that when people talk about social media to schools today, and I just spoke at a conference about a month ago in Salt Lake City on this topic, people tend to gravitate to traditional forms of mainstream social media, YouTube, Facebook, and they think of them as promotional vehicles. They tend to think of, well, we're doing social media because we have a Facebook fan page, or I guess it's a Facebook like page now. Well, that's not what we're seeing the real leverage of the technology is. It's really open source to solve real time. And so I think where schools really have an opportunity is to change their orientation and shift their orientation to really be thinking about social media, broadly described as an innovation tool and a collaboration tool. I think that's the big piece as well. So I think that, the sky's the limit right now. Things are moving really fast. We try as a company to help people sort out that speed and figure out what that means for them. Where are they at in this kind of continuum of change? But it's exciting times. It really is. And my sense is that education in America is on the way to improvement. And what we have to do is we have to make it cheaper. We have to make it better, more competitive. We are now 4% of the world's population. India is 14 and China 17. We've got to get better, and we've got to use these tools to the best of our advantages, not in a way to be competitive with other cultures, but to be a competitive force and a change agent in itself in our world, and I think that's going to happen. Education is a slow to change structure. There are many reasons why. The tenure model, but the tenure model of faculty was originally developed to help safeguard intellectual inquiry and academic freedom for faculty. But there are not many places in the world today that you can get a job for life. You still can in higher education. So that tends to create a change-resistant culture. It's the early adopters and the change agents within, as you call them, within those industries that are really helping push education forward right now. It's exciting times.
Absolutely. And, I think for us in technology, we really feel like it can be leveraged to bring people together, but the most important context of benefit is to achieve some, action or end goal, not just for the sake of promotion or just for the sake of communication.
Yeah.
It seems like that has a nice natural fit with where education is going, and obviously it seems like you're a good optimist about future trends in that area. And as you look into the future, what inspires you about your role as a change agent in making that happen?
Well, it's funny. I just right now the theme that I'm on, and this changes from moment to moment, I guess, but I think many people have said this, and I would say this about our industry in particular, that if you fail to evolve, which really may equate into failing to innovate, because innovation is the next step from evolution. It's really taking it to the next level. You're probably not going to be around very long, and business shows us some incredible case studies for that to be the case. Who would have ever thought at the same time that Wikipedia was launched that Encarta was launched? Which one was successful, the one that was purchased and packaged, or the one that was open source? Who would have ever thought at that time Microsoft's massive push toward Encarta wasn't going to work out? Innovation is moving rapidly. So what inspires me are the schools that get it. What inspires me and makes me happy and makes me want to come to work every day and do what I do is to see a school connect the dots and say, wow, we still have to do a good job in the reading and the writing and the arithmetic and the critical thinking skills. They need to have hard knowledge, what we in higher ed call hard skills. What's really exciting, it's the soft skills. It's emotional intelligence. It's understanding how to work on a project within context. That's where collaboration tools really come into play. I can run a company with people in different offices in different cities, and we can be better connected than if we were in the same office physically. We don't send emails to each other. We don't, and the same can be so much the case for students that are in classrooms. It's exciting times. What inspires me is seeing the industry advance. I think there will be some casualties along the way. I think there will be some that can't get on board and can't figure out what that's going to look like for them. Their own structural obstacles will fail to allow them to be able to embrace change. But the ones that do, they'll thrive. I think that's my prediction, and I think we're going to be a stronger educational nation in the future as a result. We've got to find a way to control cost. That's the big issue controlling us right now, is how can we provide a high quality education at a reasonable price in the private sector today that people want, afford, and can't afford, and what role does technology play in that? And I think that's a question that is largely trying to be answered right now within the industry. Collaboration tools play a big role in that.
Great. Thanks, Ian, for spending time with us today.
You bet.
And we're looking forward to seeing you all at the next installment of FMYI's Change Agents Unite series.